Hello everybody and welcome to the video. If you've been following along, you've seen that we've configured a lot of our virtual networking and our VPN connectivity from our on-premise network to our cloud environment. So today what we're going to do is we're going to build a domain controller VM, full-scale infrastructure as a service VM inside of Azure. So to get started, we're going to go to portal.azure.com and we're going to create a resource. For me, in my particular instance, I've got identity security resource group that I'm going to put this virtual machine in. All right, so we need to put this in cybersecurity subscription, identity security resource group. We're going to call this IMPDC-AZCUS. And we don't need infrastructure redundancy. I'm not worried about secure boot because I don't want to have to troubleshoot secure boot to finish recording this video. Yeah, I'll take 2019. Oh, it'll actually let me do a B1. Cool. $12 a month for a VM is way better than like 50. All right, so here you're gonna put your name, the region that you want, the resource group, and all that stuff. And then on your sizes, this is going to be the actual compute that you're giving your VM. So the capacity that's reserved in Azure for your machine. And you can go through this chart and select a different one if you want. Over here on the cost per month, this is usually what I worry about. I'm trying to keep things a little bit cheaper. But, now that I'm thinking about it, I do need this to be a DC. So let's give it at least a little bit of resources. Send. I don't know. Let's do RAM. Give it at least 8 gigs of RAM. What do we got for that? Cost per month. $78 for a B2. 2 CPUs, 8 gigs of RAM. Yeah, I can live with that. Let's go ahead and select that one. I want to actually be able to upgrade it and promote it to a domain controller without it taking all night because it's already 1:15 a.m. right now. All right, so we don't want any public inbound ports because we have our virtual WAN, so we're going to have connectivity directly to it. On disks. I definitely recommend in production environments doing disk encryption, and I would recommend doing it with a customer-owned key that you own. Create your own key vault, put your own key in there, tie that to your Azure resource creation, encrypt all of your storage and everything else with a key that you own. For the lab purposes, I'm just going to leave this as Microsoft managed, and I'm not going to really worry about the security of this right now because I'm just creating it to let a guy hack it tomorrow. So let's do a standard SDD for our OS disk. This key management is what I talked to you about. If you want to use a customer managed key, platform managed key, Microsoft's going to do it by default. They're going to encrypt your storage by default with a key that Microsoft manages. But just for security best practices, it's just always best that you own your own keys. We don't need to attach any extra data disks. We are going to have to create a NIC for this. So we're going to put it into Active Directory, CUS. Okay, right subnet. I don't need a public IP address. We'll just do a basic network security group. No public inbound ports. We do want to delete the NIC when the VM gets deleted. We don't need to do any load balancing. Okay, so it's going to inherit Defender for Cloud. We want to log in with local AD, so yeah, we don't need any of this stuff. Monitoring. Yes, that's just diagnostics. And then our extensions are automatically going to get installed, so I'm not too worried about that. All right, let's go ahead and create our virtual machine. And I'll come back in just a minute once that's done provisioning. All right, we're back and our resource has been deployed. Let's go ahead and go see which IP it picked up. So as you can see, a bunch of different objects got created with the VM creation. So we actually have our virtual machine, we have a network security group, and that's going to allow us to do layer 4 firewall type controls to this particular IP address. We have the disk in here, and then, as you saw in previous videos, we have our Azure Arc. This is our on-premise DC. This is going to be the one that we replicate to. So to start off with, let's go to our network and see what connected devices we have. All right, so that is on 10.3.4, 10.034. Let me write that down. MPDC-AZCUS-001 is 10.0.3.4. One 119.110. Okay. Sweet, I got an authentication. And then MPDC-MHT-001 is 172.19.110.3. Okay, this is important because we have to set up DNS in order for Active Directory to work properly. We only have 2 domain controllers, so we need to do a / for the local account. Ta-da! I'm now RDP'd into my virtual machine, which is in the central region of Azure. So while I do that, I know our firewall in Azure has an open rule. Let me double check our firewall here. Okay, so we got any, all. Okay. So we want to start to lock that down just a little bit. So let's say they're coming from the server network. We're going to our Azure VPN interface. Do I have an object created? I don't think I have an address object created for this. Actually, let's create an address group. And we shall call it domain controllers. And we'll make it green. And inside of it, we will create impdc-mht-01. It's going to go 72.19.110.3/32. Now let's create one for the Azure. That was 10.0.3.4/32. There we go. AZCUS. I don't know how this other one got in here, but let's delete that one out. All right, so now we got our address group for the domain controllers. Let's plop that into our source and destination. Domain controllers talking to each other, and then the services, I have a service group down here for Active Directory ports, and it includes all the major things that you would expect: DNS, RPC, NetBIOS, Kerberos, LDAP, LDAP-S, LDAP UDP, SMB, web service management, if you're doing ADFS, and HTTP and HTTPS, I think, if you're doing certificate services. I might be missing one. But yeah, all the main Active Directory ports. So if a domain controller is talking to a domain controller with Active Directory ports, we want to allow that. We don't want to add the traffic. And if you want it to be noisy, you could log all sessions. I'm going to, just because I'm using FortiCloud. Go ahead and log that. All right, then I end up with where do my Azure policies go? Are they up here in global? Not really a huge fan of the 7.4 policy table. It's not really doing it for me. So it only went one spot higher. So let's move you up here. So we still have the catch-all, but when we put more specific policies above it, it should catch the new rule. All right, so now our policy is in the right spot, and I want to create a sequencing group so that hopefully I don't have to deal with that problem again. So let's go ahead and create a sequencing group for Azure policies. There we go. All right, so we got our specific rule. If we go back to our RDP connection, yep, you had time to load. Let's go ahead and do our basic configuration stuff so that we don't run into roadblocks. IPv4, okay, it's assigned by DHCP, but it's going to be in the static work group, time zone. Let's do some basic level network tests and make sure that we can do what we think we can do. So ping 172.19.110.3. Sweet. Routing through the firewall, getting back, 19 millisecond latency. It's really not that bad. Let's do a test net connection. All right, so we can ping, we can get through on LDAP ports. The NIC was assigned by DHCP, so something tells me that the cloud, I'm gonna have to change the DNS settings in the cloud, which is gonna be fun. Yep, so that's all dynamic. Let's take a look at our VM. And that'd be in the virtual network, wouldn't it? Networking. There we go. DNS servers, Azure provided, custom. So let's start off with, for the cloud, we want it to be this 10.0.3.4. And then we want it to default back to on-prem if it fails. 3. Okay. I'm gonna flush DNS. Without losing my RDP connection, probably not. Let's just restart the server. All right, so I got that restarted. Let's try and reconnect to it. All right, let's see what this thing picked up on DHCP this time. There we go. Maybe it took a second for that to kick in. DNS servers 10.3.4. Okay. So that's important because we need the DNS to be pointed at the other domain controller so that it can actually resolve our domain name. So now I should be able to go in here to roles and features. Oh man, it's been a while since I've installed Active Directory fresh. Let's see. Active Directory domain services. Let's install that. And while we're waiting on that to install, let's go ahead RDP to our other domain controller. What happened? It rebooted. Oops. Maybe the VM host crashed. All right, so on this one, this is the on-premise domain controller. We're going to set the secondary DNS to be the Azure domain controller. Read 4. Let's put the actual IP address in this one. 172.19.10.3. Okay. Close. All right, so now the reverse lookup should be able to work just the same. And let's go back over here to this VM. See how it's doing. All right, it's closed. Now you're ready to do promotion to a domain controller. And add it to an existing domain of empyrean.corp. Let's try adding at domain name. Does that work? Woohoo. Did it work? Yeah. All right. So your DSRM password is very, very important. Don't ever mess that one up. Take a backup of it and put it in a key vault and store it somewhere, right, where you can pull it out if you need to. Replicate from any domain controller. Yeah, we'll just leave all that as default. Steve's just gonna hack it anyway. Okay. Yes. Install. Promote to domain controller. Perform replication. Let it spin for a little bit, and then we'll verify everything's replicating as expected. Time to reboot. Alright, so now I'm signing in, and it's domain join now. So I need to actually use mark at empyrean.corp. Oh, did I fat finger my password? Oops. Sweet. So now we got DNS, we got Active Directory replicated up to the cloud. We got domain controllers, yep. File servers in there. All the Active Directory integrated stuff, so replication worked. Now the next big thing that we need to do is get the Defender for Identity agent on it. So let's go security.microsoft.com. Go grab our Defender agent. Actually, I might have it in my downloads now that I think about it. Once we get this sensor installed, the Defender for Cloud stuff, it should automatically take place because this is a cloud native server. It inherited the Defender for Cloud settings, so I would expect the extensions to get installed shortly. Logs for like file integrity monitoring and whatnot going to our log analytics workspace and ultimately Sentinel. And then we can build some PaaS resources after that. Forgot I don't have a GPO set up for the Defender for Endpoint onboarding, so I'm going to get that going too. Alright, so agent Defender for Identity is successful. Sweet. Yeah, extract this. Oh, apparently I already did that. Oops. Mixing up my windows here. Let's run that as an administrator. Run our onboarding process. And then here in a few minutes, we should see that light up in our devices up here. Alright, so we got our desktops. What is this? Product agent for Windows. That's interesting. DC-MHT. Okay, so that isn't in there just yet. Let's see if the agent is reporting to our Defender for Identity. Nope, that's not reporting yet either. Give that a little bit and we'll come back and check on it. Alright, so that had a little bit of time to run. Now we see our AZCUS Active Directory server showing up in our list of sensors. If we go over here and click over to our devices, we can also see it is down here in our Defender for Endpoint, and it's active and it's onboarded. So Defender for Endpoint, Plan 2, Defender for Servers, I guess you could say, has been enabled on the server. So all of the antivirus policies and everything that we've configured should be active on that now. And yeah, that's how you build a VM, specifically a VM with Active Directory, and how you do the DNS and do the replication and everything between it. So now that we have both of those set up, all of the resources going forward are just going to point to that DNS server for Azure resources, and then on-premise, they all point to the on-premise domain controller. So yeah, that's how you build a VM. So hopefully you found that informative, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.